In this video, we'll be talking about materials in Blender. So to start things off, I have this cube over here, which I've beveled a bunch, just so we can see the edges better. And now we're going to create our first material. So to do this, we're going to go over here to these icons, and we're going to go right here, the materials icon, and we're going to create a new material. So first thing you can notice is we have a bunch of settings here. These we're not going to go into details, but yeah, we're going to use the standard one, the principal material, BSDF. The second thing we're going to look at is the base color. This is the color of the object that we have. You see that when I click it, we have this nice color wheel. One thing you're going to notice is that even though I'm changing the color, nothing changes here. In order for us to see what's going on, we need to go to the material view, which is right over here. We have the shading view, the solid shading view, the material view, and the rendered view, as well as a wireframe view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press the material view, and when I press it, you can see that right now I'm able to see the material as I'm working on it. So if I start changing the color, again, you're going to see all the changes in real time. I can work with the value from the slider here. So if I want it to be darker, I slide the slider further down. So let's keep it maybe a shade of reddish, orange. Maybe have it something a bit more like in this proximity here. The next thing you're going to notice is the subsurface. This is something that we're going to ignore for now. We're going to come back to it at later moments when we discuss rendering. So we're going to go all the way down to metallic. This is the second most important setting that you're going to have. The further I slide this in, the more metallic the object becomes. The lower it is, the less metallic it is. If I go all the way here, you'll see that it's full on metal. And if I go all the way here, you can see that it's not metallic at all. It's more of an organic surface. Let's slide it somewhere here so we can have something more metallic, because we're going to go to the next setting, which is specular. If I increase this, what you're going to start noticing is the level of specularity on the metal. The further this is, the more specular the material gets. The lower it is, the less specular it is. The specular tint is something that we're not going to go into full discussion about. It's not something that's visible unless we start rendering particularly some more advanced surfaces. We may jump into it in future videos. The next one you need to worry about is the roughness slider. The smoother something is, the further down the slider is, the more reflective it becomes. That means it's really not rough. The further up it goes, the rougher it is, the less reflective it gets. So basically you can think of this as a reflectivity field. And the cool thing about this is that, let's say we want to have it be really reflective, something maybe like this. We go over here to our pop-up menu. We can start to rotate the environment and get different sort of reflections. We can increase the strength at which, this is an HDRI environment, by the way. We can increase the strength with which it lights up our scene from 0, which is basically black, all the way to 2, which is basically like really strong. We can also kind of work with the world of opacity, which gives us the background. I don't really like to use backgrounds. And here we have the blur setting, which blurs out pretty much the environment. This is all, by the way, rendered with Eevee, which is our render setting, which you can choose from this menu right here. Eevee is the real-time render. Cycles is something that we're going to go into detail, like just render engines further down in the videos. But basically, this is the way our materials work. Another field that you can use here, which is really kind of important, is the emission field. First of all, let's start off with how this works. The lighter it is, the more emissive this thing is. Emission basically meaning it radiates light. The stronger it is from the strength field, the more emissive it becomes. So yeah, that's another interesting thing. Let's decrease this all the way to 0. Another thing that you can look into is the index of refraction. This is basically how much the material refracts the lighting that passes through it. It's more visible when rendering with cycles. You can experiment with all of the other sliders here, stuff like sheen and all of the other things. But the main one that we wanted to discuss was the base color, the metallic, the specular, the roughness, and the emission. So that's it for this video. We'll be talking about other things regarding materials, color, and UVs in later ones.